We are approaching 1 million subscribers on our YouTube channel. Can't believe we're even close to this. Can't thank you guys enough. If you haven't already, please go hit that subscribe button. Lots of fun NBA content coming your way.
Hi, hello, and welcome to another episode of The Dunker Spot. We are part of 342 Productions. I am your host, Nekias Duncan, and joining me as always is my co-host, Steve Jones Jr. Steve, how are you doing, sir?
Feeling good, feeling great. Happy to be here, excited to be here. Thank you, Dunkers, for once again embracing your bounce. Dunker Nation, let's ride. Tuesdays for the Dunkers, YouTubers high. Nekias, get your shopping done early. It's time to hoop it up. Let's hoop it up. Hoop it up.
All right, fair enough. Let's get ready to hoop it up. The rare Tuesday morning recording for us. We normally record on Monday afternoons. We got the Monday night slate in. We're going to jump right into it. For those who aren't familiar with us, we are on the YouTube channel every Tuesday, just for the people that aren't aware. So thank you. Hello. Hi. Welcome. We're sorry. Whichever one is appropriate. Let's talk some hoops. Steve, what team has caught your eye as of late?
I want to talk about the Cavs real quick.
Okay.
Because I am in an interesting place with the Cavs. I want to get your thoughts on it. Because I feel like they are on the way up, but I also am wondering how good are they right now? I know that sounds wild. So the 8 seed right now, 9-8, 4-5 at home, 5-3 on the road. They've had some injury stuff, which has made things a little weird. But this is very much like an eye test, mind test. Analytics don't match up type deal for me. Because like they're 24th in offensive rating, the guys, at 110.6. They're 14th in defensive rating at 112.5. That's not really the Cavs profile. They've won 6 of their last 9. They've lost 2 of their last 3 at home. But it feels like they're headed in the right direction. And the main thing for me that I've been keeping an eye on, the tempo feels better. Now that for me is the deciding factor with Cleveland. When are they starting their possessions? Are they getting to their set at 14 on the clock? Or are they starting with 20 or 18? And now they're able to get things going. It does feel like offensively, they are getting from option A to option B to option C a lot quicker when they do start their sets earlier. And I think that's one of the big areas that Max Strus has given them a big boost. Not just his shot making, but they just have a better flow. You can go from side to side. And it's not just Garland and Mitchell that have to initiate a set. You can get him in movement. He can cut. Now you can give a handoff to Garland, a handoff to Mitchell, get into a pick and roll with either one of your bigs. And it just kind of makes sense. And so I like that. And so when you look at the playbook now with Max Strus, Cleveland's always had good sets. But he gives it a little bit more juice because he's someone that defenses are going to respect. And you know, if he's open, he's going to let it fly. He knows the assignment. So you can run him off staggers, put him in pistol action, get that movement so the defense has to move from side to side. I think Darius Garland has had a better season than it feels like, in my opinion, as far as just being in command. The fact that he's changing speeds and pick and roll, he's always been good at that, but it feels like he's really picking his spots this year. Some of the off-ball movement that he's had has been really fun for me, especially if they go elbow action with Allen or Mobley, and he can just he's a good cutter, so he can cut back door or he can come off for the handoff. They're running a lot more post splits this year, just flowing into them. I think that's another place where Max Strus has helped. And so he's able to kind of get some cuts that way. Donovan Mitchell has picked up where he left off last season. I don't know how anyone feels about it, though. And so that was where my question was going to go to you here in a second. Like, what do we do with Donovan Mitchell's start? Because I was sitting here like, hey, he's hooping. I think he's almost at a career high assist-wise. Things are going well, but then it's like, hey, are the Cavs better without Donovan Mitchell? And I was like, wait, that's a take? So actually, I'll just ask that there. How have you felt about Donovan Mitchell's starts of the year?
The best way that I can describe it is that his season has felt necessary. As you've talked about, very early on, the injuries that they were dealing with. Like Jared Allen was out for a bit, they missed Garland for a little bit. And to that point, and just your overall point about like where their offense is and stuff like that, their big 4, Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, they've played 93 minutes together this year. That's a very low number, considering just what the starters logged last year. They have a 107.6 offensive rating in those minutes, but they're shooting the shade under 32% from 3. And as you talk about the process, like we're pretty much aligned there. Like it does feel better. It does feel like they're doing more things. I still would like to see them play a little bit faster, but the tempo it's a market improvement from where it was last year in terms of their half court pacing stuff they're running. So like for me, and you've been doing this pod with me for a while now, if the process is sound, like obviously results still matter, but I do feel better watching Cleveland flow. And I expect those numbers to pick up, especially with the starters. And then once you factor in Max Strus into this, and he's been very good for them this year. Like I just anticipate that's just going to be a starting lineup that works. Like I think back to the Laker game in particular with how Evan Mobley and Jared Allen working together with some of those high lows. It's like, okay, not only is this happening, and we saw those high lows last year, but not only is this happening, it's happening earlier in the clock. That makes me feel good. So if defenses do take it away, you can now flow into other things. And you have both Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland that you can just pitch it out to for a quick pick and roll, flow it to a handoff. Max Strus adds a layer of randomness to their offense as well. So like I love that they have more things. To circle back to the Mitchell thing, it's felt necessary. I do think it's been a bit of an adjustment period for him trying to, I guess, dial it back to a degree with Garland back into the mix. And so it feels more like, hey, you go, we flow into this, and now I go, and then we flow into this versus kind of what we saw early on where they were put together. The Garland only minutes were great. The Mitchell only minutes were great. When they were together, they won the minutes, but it's like, when is this going to feel right? So I think as Donovan Mitchell had to take on this lion's share offensively early on, now getting back into the mix, playing off of Garland and vice versa, like I think there's been a little bit of adjustment there, but ultimately I feel good about where they're going.
Does the defense, do you feel better about his defense? Because I know last year you were like, hey, keep an eye on it. Hey, I feel better about this. Do you still have that feeling? Because I'm looking at some of the people he's been asked to guard. And I'm like, oh, he's just guarding OG Anunoby outright. Do you feel better about that? Or
I think the defense in Cleveland in general has just been the best it's ever been in his career. And I think it was easy to point to, again, early in the season, like the insane steal numbers that he was racking up early on. But like beyond that, it does feel better on and off the ball for him. Still not perfect, but it feels better. And the fact that he can just take on some of these more strength-based matchups, I think it's encouraging. I do still kind of wonder if you get if you get a New York, if you get a Boston, if you get a Miami, like what do you do with the starting lineup? Who's getting those matchups? And maybe this is part of, okay, Mitchell's going to have to take some of these on if you're going to keep starting Max Strus. Because I don't think you just throw Max Strus to the Wolves to that degree in a playoff setting. But I guess in general, I do feel better about defense. I think he's been fine.
I wonder if the bit is Donovan Mitchell is going to take shots. Donovan Mitchell is going to take a specific type of shot. I just looked up the tracking data real quick. He's at 37% on pull-up twos and 37.3% on pull-up threes and 37.5% on catch-and-shoot threes. Could the bit just be he's not making the shots while still scoring? Like, how do we balance that?
It could be it, especially with the mid-range, because he's typically better than that. And to your overall point about just how it feels, it also feels like he's getting to his spots a little bit easier than he did last year. And so I'd imagine with the way that he works in the intermediate area, like that stuff should just perk up. And considering that he should have less of a load than he had earlier in the year, he should just have more energy in general. Like I think as that all just kind of gets reconfigured, we should just see a more efficient version of him.
Makes sense. Figured I'd get your thoughts on it. I did want to give a tip of the cap to Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. I feel like defensively, they are continuing to make strides with Mobley being switchable. I feel like Jared Allen has at least 2 to 3 plays every night, flying in to get a block, good weak side help, where it's like, oh yeah, he does a lot for this team that maybe flies under the radar. He's felt more aggressive on the short roll. It is going to be interesting to see how they handle this regular season in preparation for the playoffs, because for this to work, those two have to be effective. Mm-hmm. Have you felt better about those two in the regular season so far?
So far, I guess a slight lean to yes, because they seem to be playing off each other a little bit better, especially as of late. I think overall, my eyes still kind of go to, hey, what is Evan doing when he gets these short roll reps? And how fluid is it? And so I'm continuing to monitor that portion of it. And I do still think, like, zooming out, the best version of this team, I think, is just going to have one of those guys in with a spacier option at the 4. I think Cleveland is hoping, like, moving forward, that's just going to be Evan for very obvious reasons. But, like, I have felt encouraged again. The fact that they're just playing quicker, I think, gives them a little bit more room to operate. And the fact that they kind of know where they need the space when the other is involved in pick and roll, I think is helpful. And now you're starting to see more of those corner cuts from Evan Mobley. You're starting to see Jared Allen get some more of those dump offs. So I'm fine. I don't know if fine's good enough depending on who they get in the postseason. But I'm fine right now.
That's where it goes. Like, are they going to answer enough questions in the regular season to make the playoff run? Because there's a formula here. And I'm glad you mentioned having one of them at the 5, because I think having George Niang is very important for this team to give their lineups a better balance and feel as far as things you can run and movement. And we have a roller, we can space the floor. Karis LeVert, hey, you just come off the bench and do Karis LeVert stuff. Have a blast. I like that balance, but it's like, what's missing? Is it shooting? Is it defense? Is it the short roll? Is it teams can attack them in a certain way? Are they set up for success in the playoffs? Are they answering those questions? Or is this a really good team that's having to fight uphill?
Yeah, like, it's a weird mix of, like, you zoom out at the roster, like, I feel better about the roster. But to your point, like, have they answered the question? And ultimately, again, we're projecting forward. You said they're the 8 seed right now. I think they're just flat out going to be better than that. As the season goes on, they stay healthy. So maybe it's unfair to just say, oh, when they get to the playoffs, but, like, I think they're going to be there. If I end up being wrong, I just take the L. But, like, depending on the matchup, like, I wonder, are there certain questions that we have about this team that may not matter as much? Like, if it's Cleveland, Miami, and we have some of the questions with Miami's offense, or at least I do. Do we worry a little bit less about some of the stuff? Because I think going back to the New York matchup in particular, with what Mitchell Robinson did on the glass, how many bigs can do that specific thing to Cleveland? I don't know. Like, in general, like, Bam's better than Mitchell Robinson. I think that's fair to say. But, like, is Bam going to pose the same threat on the glass and thus shrink the floor and thus put Cleveland in a box the way that New York did last year? I don't know. And so, like, that's something that's at the back of my head, and it's late November right now, so we got time. But that's something that I'm also curious about with them. With the smaller groups, though, because you mentioned George Niang, how have you felt about his minutes so far this year?
I've liked them more than the stats would say, to a degree, just because of what he provides for that offense. And they don't have to search as much or hope, hey, insert big here, you get enough reputation that teams will help off of you. You know what I mean? Or will stay home against you. So I've just liked the fact that he can come in, they just kind of still flow into their movement actions. And he's smart enough to make little plays like, okay, I can catch, I can do a dribble handoff. They deny me, let me flip it into a pick and roll and go space. Like, just the little parts that he adds just makes sense for Cleveland, for me. So I've liked it. Now the question is he going to make enough shots to make it work? So you'd probably like him to be a little bit above 35% from 3, but he's made enough in his career to be a reputation shooter. So
yeah,
teams aren't going to be as willing to just be like, hey, throw it to him.
I feel you. Because, like, looking at lineup stuff for them was why I wanted to ask you. Because, again, it's looked fine. And to your point about George Niang, even if he isn't shooting well, teams are still going to guard him. But that's generally what you want, especially alongside Jared Allen or Evan Mobley. Just give them more space to operate. If they go spread pick and roll, or if they allow those guys to operate as handoff hubs, you just got more room to operate with. So, like, I think in general, you're getting the looks that you want. But then you go to the lineup data, Evan Mobley and George Niang on the floor without Jared Allen, they're basically neutral in nearly 200 minutes. Jared Allen and George Niang without Evan Mobley, negative net rating, -9 in 96 minutes. A 115.8 offensive rating is good, but it's not world beating, and the defense is getting blitzed right now. But even some of that might just be a little bit of shooting luck, just looking at some of the numbers there. So it's just like trying to marry, again, this is good process. I like this. Hey, wait, this actually isn't working to the degree that they want it to right now. And then the obvious caveat of we aren't at Christmas yet. And this is a team that is generally new with adding these pieces, but also they've been hurt. And so it isn't up until recently that we've actually gotten to see some semblance of the full rotation. And so just kind of giving it grace and, piecing through it and seeing what that looks like.
Giving grace, is that allowed?
It should be.
Is that something we can do? You know what? You tap something for me real quick. I'm gonna go real quick. I don't before I throw the ball to you. Can we let the season breathe a little bit? Can we just let it breathe, Nekias? Like, I know hot takes and definitive takes are great. You love them. It is very early in the season. Teams are going to go up and down. Well, we saw the Clippers beat Dallas, right? Mm-hmm. And then, hey, Reggie Jackson and DeAndre Jordan, come on down. It's going to swing left and right. Results are going to go up and down. This league is very competitive right now. And the biggest thing I would say to people out there, your team is either going to learn from these moments and work to improve and get better, or these things you're concerned about will be the flaws and will be part of what holds them back going forward. Just look for the trends. Hey, we're really good at this. Hey, we keep being really good at this. We're winning because of this. Great. You know what happens? Other teams are like, hey, they're really good at that. Let's take that away. We did it. that is the point. That is just
that's how that works.
The game will tell the story. I just want to say that right now. It should be more fun based on how competitive this league is. Just breathe. Just let it breathe.
Take the regular season as an opportunity to learn about your team is a novel concept, as we are not even a quarter of the way through the season right now. But, maybe one day. Wishful thinking. Did you have any other teams you want to shout out?
No. I wanted to hear you talk about the Magic again.
Yeah, like I had to run it back with Orlando. Like, it's hard to ignore a 7-game win streak, including wins at Indiana. They beat Toronto, which is an interesting stylistic matchup for them. Beat Denver on the back-to-back. They beat Boston behind a ridiculous fourth quarter. And just in general, just a good second half against Boston. This team has been really fun to watch. The defense has remained elite. Per cleaning the glass, which filters out garbage time. They are second in defense. They're fifth in half-court defense. They are second in transition defense. Though teams do get to run quite a bit, that flows into their offense. I've just been in a headlock with the offense overall. And I tweeted this out yesterday as I was going through some film on them. It's like they are an interesting case study between shooting and spacing and like the true difference between those two. Because I watched this Orlando group on offense, and I don't feel like this is a poor spacing group. They generally know where they want to be on the floor. If they're clearing a side for Paolo, if they're clearing something out for Franz, if they're running a pick and roll on the wing or something like that, they do a really good job of maximizing whatever space they need. And on top of that, they have the guards in particular, guys that just buzz off the ball. They lift with purpose. They relocate. They mirror their movements with the drivers. They do a good job of straining space, but there are just obvious limits to that because of the shooting talent on the roster. Like, they're bottom 3 in three-point percentage, low on attempts in terms of the percentage of shots that they take from three. That's also low. It's not a good three-point shooting team, but they do everything they can to maximize that. And I just wonder, very basic thought, but like, I just wonder what happens when some of these guys just make shots. Like, Franz has not been able to knock down threes at all this year. And Orlando has been pretty intent on having him one pass or like the pass after that away from Paolo when they're trying to clear something out for him. When he's not shooting under 30% from three anymore, like, how much will that lift the offense? It's like, that's been a thought. But going back to the defense very quickly. Jalen Suggs is defending his tail off. He's good on ball. He's very good off the ball. Makes all kind of plays. The hustle plays are there. Passing lane steals. If you try to post up or just set up a split or something, you're not aware of where he is, he will take the ball away from you, just blindside you. He's gone to the other side. You throw a lazy pass, it is a pick six for him. The football background just pops for him. He's been incredible on that end. Me and you have talked about Anthony Black throughout some of our watch parties. We're watching Orlando. That dude fights on defense. I just can't wait. I can't wait for him to get stronger. Like, that's kind of the general thought that I have with watching him defend. I think the screen navigation is pretty good. He's not afraid at all to switch on to bigger wings. They just move him when they drive or try to post him up. but he's in the right spots. And I think against other guards, he's already proven that he's pretty darn good defensively. That's just a fun backcourt track. Franz has been solid. I haven't felt bad about the Paolo defense so far this year. Goga Bitadze is doing his job and then some. And I was a little bit worried once Wendell went down. Like, okay, what exactly is this defense going to look like? Like, what are they going to ask Goga to do? Because I was worried about the vertical pop. And while they have the collective size to like play Goga more aggressively and just hope, well, here's 6'10 Franz on the back end, or here's Paolo on the back end, or when they bring Jonathan Isaac in, who has been insane defensively all year long, like you got enough to make that work. But I did kind of have some questions about what that was going to look like. And they've mixed in Goga at the level. They've had him in a deeper drop. He's been really good at the rim defensively. So that's been fun. And even on the other end, here Goga handle these handoffs. Here's a quick split. Just pass the ball, get in the way, because he doesn't really set screens, which is a slight irk, but it's working right now. While he's in, just run up to the guard, get in the way, turn and seal, and get out there as quickly as possible to see if you can get something. Getting the guards downhill. The Goga minutes have been good. Mo Wagner's been, I just didn't see this coming from Mo. And he had a good season last year. It doesn't feel like he misses anymore. Shooting well from three on low volume, inside the arc. The mix of drives and the cuts when teams ignore him, he's been really fun at the rim this year. I'm liking this Orlando team, man. I'm liking this Orlando team.
I do find it funny. It feels like you found your modern grit and grind Grizzlies as you try and figure out how to handle scoring and spacing. And I'm just kind of like laughing inside, like, yeah. You can see a team can have success without necessarily having all the knockdown shooters, huh? I think their best offense is their defense. I think that's fair to say. Defensively, I like the activity. You have Jalen Suggs, who will guard anyone. You have Paolo and Franz, who are tall and long and lengthy, and so they can throw some switchability in there. They're really active with their help, so the low man's going to come. They're going to rotate out of it. They're just going to keep fighting defensively. I think that's been the best part about it. Offensively, I've been keeping an eye on it but they feel like they have more purpose right now. I still am curious how they handle switching, but they have been able to say, you know what? Let's just matchup hunt. Let's just find a matchup for Paolo, for Franz, and let's attack it. With having multiple ball handlers out there because of how they're set up, with Paolo and Franz, okay, we can have a lot of different people as screeners. We can kind of drive and kick. You know, it's not as pretty as like in Oklahoma City. They do bog down. And it's like, okay, one option, stop, wait, what do we do now? They probably need to work on those possessions. But if they can get in the paint, they can make a kick, and now they can play out of it. They're starting to learn that. And I feel like the learning part is huge for them. Now, I have a question for you, right?
Okay.
One, they've taken care of business. Great streak. We're going to find out about them soon, though. At Brooklyn, against the Cavs, 2 games at Boston, against the Heat, at Milwaukee, at Indiana, some in-season tournament stuff in between. Hey, what's going on? Secondly, did you know that the starting lineup of Paolo, Goga, Anthony Black, Jalen Suggs, and Franz Wagner is 8-2? Is this them finding the right 5-person combination and everyone slotting behind it? Or is this Orlando just being good?
It feels more like the latter than the former to me. And to your general point, like I think the defense just kind of sets everything up. And it is a bit of a luxury that, again, Goga's playing well, but even in the guard room, no Markelle Fultz, here's Anthony Black, who can also defend. And you're getting this from Jalen Suggs. So I do think, like, just in general, the defensive foundation of this group is strong. And, like, even if you account for teams that are eventually going to start shooting a little bit better from three, though Orlando does their darndest to try to take some of those attempts away, they may slip from, again, second per cleaning the glass. They may slip from second to, like, 6th, 7th. Like, this very much feels like the profile of a top 10 defense for me. And when you can eventually limit some of the You don't want to limit the Mo minutes too much because of how well he's playing offensively. But you limit some of those minutes, you limit some of those Goga minutes, and now you get Wendell, who can offer more scheme versatility for you, who's just a flat-out better defender than those two. That should make things better. And I think about how they've been using Goga in particular in the starting lineup, replacing him with Wendell, who isn't afraid to take those above the break threes, isn't afraid to take threes, period, based on what we saw in the early sample. Like, I do project, like, they should get better when Wendell Carter gets back, which shouldn't sound like a hot take, but somehow sounds like a hot take. They should be better when he gets back. The schedule is about to get tough, though. And I do think with the teams that you mentioned, like, Brooklyn is a world beater right now, but they switch a bunch. Miami's good. You know they don't mind switching when necessary. Mention Boston. They're absolutely going to switch a bunch. And I think based on how that last game went, I would imagine they may have a little smoke for Orlando.
Just a little bit.
So we could be here next week and it's like, Orlando's lost 3 straight or whatever the case may be. And it's like, I'm glad I got that take in about Orlando. But I have enjoyed the play so far. The defense has been good. The offense intrigues me because I think there is just some low-hanging fruit with Franz shooting / playing a little bit better. The Paolo season's been weird. I actually wanted to ask you about Paolo and how you felt about the shot profile for him. And before I get into the Paolo question, just to bounce off what you said about them driving, getting to the rim. Over 42% of their shots are coming at the rim. Easily tops in the league right now. They are, I think, the first team since the 17-18 Lakers or the 18-19 Lakers to have a rim rate above 40, which is insane. And then they're the first playoff team, if they make the playoffs. Obviously, we're still in November. But they will be the first playoff team since the 2016-17 Bucks to have a rim rate over 40. It's kind of wild what they're doing, despite the shooting right now.
I found the hack. So we have a team playing really good defense, led by some young talent, getting to the rim. Who's second in rim rate, Nekias?
I can do some live podcasting right now. Second in rim rate?
Yeah. Who's second in rim rate? Humor me real quick.
The Charlotte Hornets.
Interesting.
That's a good bit.
Who's third in rim rate?
The Detroit Pistons.
Okay, never mind. Bit's over.
See? Hey, to your point, Cleveland's fourth, so I mean.
Bit is over. But Paolo's shooting what? 47% from 3 in the month of November?
Yeah, he's shooting well from 3. The volume isn't super there. And then you watch Orlando games, and he will just get these catch and shoot opportunities, and you can just tell he doesn't really want to take those. Like, I don't think that's inherently bad. He's obviously more comfortable getting downhill or just playing in the mid-range area. Like, just during the 7-game win streak, over 41% of his shots come from mid-range. And like another 38, 39, like 80% of his shots are coming inside the arc during the win streak. Like, it's very clear he wants to put his head down. And with his size, the ball handling, his ability to get to the free throw line, not getting to the line at the same level that he was last year. But that plus, as you mentioned, the mismatch hunting that Orlando's doing, it makes sense. I do wonder, like, what role he's going to play, not just this year, but moving forward. What role he's going to play in the spacing answer for Orlando.
Define answer.
I think ultimately they're going to need more guys that can and will shoot and do so efficiently.
Okay. I mean, here's the thing, though. Do we take the baby steps of him taking more? Like, I mean, if you had told me Paolo was going to shoot 51% for the month and make 2 or more threes in 4 straight games, I'd be like, hey, that's progress. I'm honestly more concerned about the free throws. That feels like a weird dip.
Even that, I feel like that's more just the mid-range play. Like, just look at the numbers now. Like, his 3-point rate percentage of shots coming from 3. Like, that's down from last year. Free throw rate also down, but he is still driving a bunch. So I feel like that part is going to perk up more than the threes. And like the fact that, I don't know, and this is a genuine question. Like, I don't have the answer here. I'm genuinely curious, like, where Paolo settles in as a 3-point shooter. Because he's shooting better, but he's still not taking a bunch. And like, you still have some of the freezes before he takes some, or he just drives his way out of some opportunities. And so I just wonder like where he eventually settles in on. Like I don't anticipate he'll ever be like a 9 3-point attempt guy, even if he becomes a really good shooter. I don't think that's him. I don't think he's wired like that. I do think there's a middle ground between like wanting him to take 9 because that's ridiculous, but I don't think it can be 3 either. Like if he settles in at 5, if he's, I guess excluding this year, but like if he's like Tobias in terms of 3-point volume, in addition to what he does inside the arc, like I think that's the balance that you kind of want from him. I don't know. Like that's just something that I'm monitoring.
Well, no, I'd say about 5. I think it's just something he needs to have in the back pocket. Mm-hmm. If the pull-up gets better and you can drive like he can drive, I can mix a couple of these threes in. We're good. Mm-hmm. I don't think it has to be like part of his program, especially the way that he's used for Orlando, being able to initiate sets. He can be a screener. He can drive a closeout. So I think there's enough there to where this doesn't necessarily have to be my thing. I just need to make the defenses pay. That type of category.
Yeah, I got you. And I should just know, away from Paolo and just kind of zooming out with Orlando, we mentioned Mo Wagner, Cole Anthony averaging 15, 5, and 4 off the bench for this group. Orlando's second unit has just been really good. So if we're just crossing all of the Nekias boxes off the list right now. Also a very fun second unit. With Cole and Mo, Jonathan Isaac flying in defensively. Joe Ingles doing all the Joe Ingles things. Still running the slowest ball screen in the league, but getting to his spots and knocking down timely shots on top of that. It's been a fun group. I've had a lot of fun with this team. Still some questions with the offense. Oh, you know what's a funny one, though? As I was thinking about their process and their spacing, again, I feel like they space well, but they don't shoot well, so it doesn't really matter. Teams help off all the good stuff. I was looking at some shot quality stuff for them. In terms of location, effective field goal percentage, like what an average team would shoot based on where they're getting these shots. They're top 5 in the league in that, which is a big bump from where they were last year. In terms of quantified shot quality, it's the second spectrum stat. It kind of factors in what type of shots being taken. Is it a jumper? Is it a floater? All that good stuff. So what type of shot it is, where it's being taken from, how close the nearest defender is, what the contest level is, stuff like that. Orlando's top 5 in shot quality. And they're also the top 10 in shot quality in the last 8 seconds of the shot clock. So even in those bailout situations, they're generally getting decent stuff. They were 27th in both last year. Now, again, still early in the season, but I get what they're trying to do. I see how they're working through their limitations. Now, I will say in terms of like the late shot quality, some of the open threes that they're getting from the corners are from guys that you want to shoot. So obviously you factor in that kind of context with something like that. But like in general, like it kind of matches. I don't feel bad about their process offensively. And like even with the baked in, they're letting mid shooter take wide open shot. Mid shooters in the NBA are still good shooters overall. When you think about just the general basketball population, if they hit those shots, they still go on the scoreboard. Like there's room for them. There's some low hanging fruit for them. So I'm just intrigued. Like if this actually ends up being like top 5 defense and like 18th ranked offense, this is just a playoff team. But we'll see. Thus concludes my Orlando spiel for now, unless I have to talk about them again in 2 weeks if they get through this gauntlet and win a bunch of games. So we'll see.
We'll be back to be continued. The remix.
I'm just here for Orlando, man. I'm just here for Orlando. Also, very quickly, Jalen Suggs all defense. How would you feel?
I could hear it right now.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm not alone because he's been insane.
There's a lot of all defense cases being made. I'm just throwing it out there.
That's also true.
The math is not going to math. Just letting y'all know right now.
Yeah, and this is why I once again say like I don't have a vote, but like this is also why I'm doing my duty with teams like Orlando. Like, hey, I don't know if we get to award season if the Orlando folks are going to get the look that they may get, they should get. Let me go ahead and put the name out early so y'all can watch, have some fun, recognize, oh, Jalen Suggs is doing the thing. It helps that he's also like top 5 in the league in steals per game. That's a very easy thing to look at. But like, watch that man on defense. Watch him. You mentioned the low man earlier. Watch him when he's the low man. Because guards aren't supposed to be able to navigate that situation as well as he does. He does not mind challenging dudes at the rim. Again, he's flying in for steals if necessary. He is not afraid to take charges either. He's fun. He's so fun on defense.
Hey, man, we're here. Influencer Duncan.
The influence, I don't know how I feel about that. We're going to let that rock. Just another quick hat tip, because you mentioned Kevin Durant on the last pod. The Phoenix Suns, also winners of 7 straight. They have a 128.4 offensive rating during their winning streak, which is the best in the NBA. We'll note OKC's right there with them, which is funny. Phoenix is scoring the ball. Second best half-court offense during this stretch as well. It starts with the stars, though. The win streak coincides with Devin Booker's return. That seems important. Devin Booker's averaging 29, 5, and 8 during this stretch. Overall on the year, running about 50 pick and rolls per 100 possessions via second spectrum. That's up from 36 last year. On trips featuring a Devin Booker pick and roll, 1.15 points per possession, which is second to Tyrese Haliburton among the high volume pick and roll guys right now. We've talked a lot about throughout the podcast history, what do the Suns look like and what does Devin Booker look like when he gets trapped? First and foremost, based on how Phoenix is spacing and some of the personnel they have, some of the shooters that they have as role guys now, teams can't even afford to blitz Devin Booker the way that they want to or used to. So last year, per second spectrum, blitzed on about 13% of his pick and rolls. This year, that's down to 7.2%. That means Devin Booker is seeing more switches, which he is a monster against. He's seeing more drop, which he is a monster against. And then you bake in the passing growth from there. You send a double. He's firing every pass you need him to. A point that you made on the Kevin Durant section, it works for both of those guys, is when you are clearing aside for Devin Booker, if he has a mismatch to attack or you get into the occasional post up, Kevin Durant's going to be one pass away more likely than not. So even if you want to double, it's a catch and shoot opportunity for that guy and vice versa. And even in pick and roll, like he is doing such a good job of freezing defenders and holding them and just kind of getting to wherever he wants to go. And if you make a false step, that ball's out of there. Slick feet on the interior, skip. If you try to show some extra help from the strong side to get a quick dig, he's firing out to that corner. You really can't do anything with Devin Booker right now. Like, it's terrifying that he's this level of 3-level scorer on top of these passing chops. And now he's becoming scheme-proof. One, because of the improvements that he's made. Because, like, even when he is blitzed, it just feels like he's doing a better job of handling those. He'll either string it out and just get and immediately create a look for someone else, or he's getting off of it, resetting, getting the ball back, and now he's attacking against a scrambling defense, which you don't really want to do. Which brings me to one of the fun nuggets, something that was brought up in our watch party and made me pay more attention to it. The Phoenix Suns getting to the free throw line at a pretty darn high rate this year. We have been talking about the Suns. I've been talking about the Suns and their rim pressure and all this good stuff since we started this gosh darn pod. And they made the finals run. Like, hey, man, these are a lot of mid-range shots, though. Can they get to the rim? Can they get to the free throw line? In terms of rim rate, they were last year. They're 22nd this year, which still isn't great. But considering their rim, over 30% of their shots are coming from the rim, that's a pretty big bump from last year. They were 28th in free throw rate, percentage of possessions they ends with free throw attempts. They were 28th last year. They are 3rd this year. 3rd. Kevin Durant taking the most free throws per game that he has since his MVP year in 2013-2014. Did not have that on the bingo card. Devin Booker getting to the free throw line at a career high rate. And even on the margins, like DeAndre Ayton was at 3 free throw attempts per game last year, and Nurk at 3.5. And so just having that level of force get to the rim, not only are you worrying about how do we help on these stars, because Devin Booker's really freaking good, Kevin Durant's really freaking good. If you're spacing it correctly, you can't send extra help, and that's opening up cuts on the back end. That's another thing that you've brought up, how well Phoenix has been cutting on the back end of actions. You have that going. And then it's also just wait. We just can't guard these dudes, period. How many pump fakes has Devin Booker gotten guys on this year? Kevin Durant, you try to contest his shot, you're just hitting his shoulder or his armpit, and he's going to the line. In addition to, very quietly, 12.5 drives per 100 possession last year, up to about 14.5 this year. Quietly, he's getting downhill a little bit more, which is a fun development for Kevin Durant at this stage of his career. In addition to ridiculous from mid-range as he always is, and as you pointed out last week, shooting over 50% from 3. Volume's lower, but it's Kevin freaking Durant. And he's doing that. And then you toss in Eric Gordon shooting ridiculously well from 3 right now, at least during the win streak, shooting well from 3, and also mixing in the drives when necessary. Grayson Allen knocking down shots. Josh Okogie right now knocking down shots while also mixing in the cuts, while also mixing in the offensive rebounds, while also taking on tough defensive assignments. KBD filling his role on both ends of the floor, knocking down shots when asked upon. I'm still trying to parse through how I feel about the Nasir Little minutes right now. Like, I'm glad that he's getting more burn. It's felt a little bit uneven for me. But he does have a level of athleticism that you really feel with those cuts, and you feel in transition when Phoenix gets there, which has also been a fun little nugget. They just do not run in transition or haven't gotten out in transition a bunch during the streak. It's really just been a bunch of walk/jog it up. We gonna get buckets because y'all can't do anything with us. And I do like how rude that generally is to opposing defenses, because you worry about the easy points, but Phoenix isn't super concerned about the easy points because they're just going to get easy points in the half court right now. But the role players are filling in. The spacing principles are strong. The stars are starring and also getting to the line, getting easy ones on top of that. Defense has slipped a bit, so certainly worth monitoring. But if they're scoring at this rate, it almost doesn't matter. So, quick hat tip to the Phoenix Suns.
Has the defense slipped, or you just don't believe in Yusuf Nurkic?
Yes, question mark. I mean, it's like a 117 defensive rating during the win streak. Like, that's not good.
Okay. Here's the big thing, and this is, again, I'll point back to the let the season breathe. Phoenix is building. They're building this. You know, you mentioned how good the stars have been. This version of Kevin Durant with this version of Devin Booker is very tough to deal with. And, like, it's very easy to forget because KD sat for a little bit. Man's averaging 32 this month. 32 in the month of November, 54% from the field, 58% from 3, 91% from the line. Just think about that. Just absorb that.
It's video game stuff.
And so this is an important time for Phoenix to explore some of these other options. You went through the list of wings. Hey, we have multiple people we can play with these lineups. We've seen Grayson Allen knock down shots. We've seen Eric Gordon knock down big shots. We've seen them have to do different things offensively. And now, hey, Eric Gordon can be a playmaker. And, hey, we haven't seen Bradley Beal, but Gordon can show you a little bit of what that could look like. And so I think it's been an important stretch of basketball for them. Devin Booker being able to see these different type of coverages, but also Phoenix getting used to the cutting on the weak side when there's 2 on the ball or a double or help is shown. Playing advantage basketball. So making quick decisions and learning and understanding, okay, where are the drives? Where are the cuts? Can we get to drive and kick? Can we keep things moving? That's stuff that will pay off for them down the line. I think that's why this is a key stretch for them to be able to learn and grow through, hey, we haven't had Book. Hey, we haven't had KD. Hey, we haven't had Beal. So that once everything comes together, we have a stronger foundation. I think that's the best part. Now they're getting the wins that go along with it. And so we'll see if they can continue to build in the right direction. I mean, for me, defensively, they've got some activity. They're very much in the do your job category. Them, Sacramento, can you do enough to make that even more powerful for me? Can you get out of the liability zone to where we feel like we can score if we put this person in action, this person in action, this person in action? But if you're looking at like checking off boxes, hey, we got a lot of our guards and wings that fit into what we're trying to do, moving the ball offensively. Nurk's been able to be a hub. Devin Booker is taking defenses and flipping them. KD's playing great. It's been a solid start.
It's been a fun start. Can I annoy you very quickly?
Sure, man.
So quick shout outs to our Sky/Suns mutual Steven, also friend of the program, David. # Spain ain't dead. Watch the Phoenix Suns. Lot of fun with Spain.
Nekias. Everyone runs that play. It's cooked, buddy. It's cooked. It's floppy. It's flex. It's over.
They're cooking in Phoenix.
All right.
I just want to sprinkle that in. This is why I prefaced with the question before I brought it up, because it's been a lot of fun. Those two in particular have done breakdowns on the timeline about what Phoenix is getting out of it and the different variations that they're running. So I wanted to shout them out, but also
did they pay
Phoenix torching the Nets.
Anyways.
No, they should.
Oh.
But no, it's just kidding. But that's all I had there. As far as teams that are making me think right now, very quickly on the Los Angeles Clippers, we just did a deep dive not too long ago. So I guess unlike Orlando, I won't go too heavy on the Clippers right now. But they did make the starting lineup change. Russell Westbrook to the bench. They got Terrence Mann in there. They were 4-1 since that change heading into last night's action. And then they got revenge gamed by Reggie Jackson and DeAndre Jordan. Fun one. Before last night's game, per second spectrum, Denver's season high in pick and roll reps, 59. They ran 81 last night. This was very much, we ain't got Murray, we ain't got Jokic, we ain't got Gordon. This is going to be a spread attack. Let's see what we can get. And Reggie Jackson cooked. And DeAndre Jordan caught, 4, 5 lobs in that game? Which doesn't... Hey, man. Hat tip the DJ.
Hat tip, he says.
Hat tip the DJ.
Hashtag
good for him for our season 1 dunkers that are listening or watching.
Yeah.
Good for him. But no, he legitimately hooped. I was also just cackling at not only did he hoop in his own way, he was also letting the Clippers know that he was hooping. Like, I just love the slide. Yeah, y'all ain't think I could still do that, huh?
Y'all, you were in the y'all. What you mean? You were the leader of the y'all. You are the y'all. You are the y'all movement. What you talking about?
Y'all movement is crazy. But anyway, even with that loss, they're now 4-2 since the lineup change. I tweeted out some James Harden stats heading into the game, so it doesn't include last night's game, but like 14, 5, and 9 for Harden, 58 true shooting in the first 5 games since the lineup change. Facilitating some aggression, some shots left on the table, still eyeing the catch and shoot opportunities in particular, but seem to be filling the role, getting other guys involved. So I guess I just wanted to ask you generally, like, how you felt about the Clippers as of late. When we first talked about them, they were under 500, big losing streak, all that good stuff. It's like, hey, I think the general theme was like, let's calm down. There are some good things here, but they obviously have some stuff to sort out. Where are you at after this recent stretch?
I'm in the same place. Sorry, no breaking news there. Go listen to the 40 minutes I gave y'all. What I would say is I think they just have to keep working through it. The one thing that is very clear, the defense that we mentioned being, hey, this is a little bit more solid than we had thought, they can't afford for it not to. So when the defense is bad, they end up being in trouble. But, they're having to work through and find exactly what's going to work for them. We've seen some good process things. I still think the key is making sure that Paul George is comfortable and effective. Because I think what you can run with James, pick and roll wise. I think what you can do with Kawhi as far as getting him going, getting him in action. Can you get the blend of movement and pick and roll from Paul George? Because the Clippers literally, early in that first quarter against Denver, Paul George gets a pick and roll. He draws 2 or forces help, and then he skips to James Harden in the corner for a catch and shoot 3. That's positive. There are so many plays for the Clippers where the process is actually sound and they don't get a result. So it's just, can they fight through it? Can they work through it? Generally, when Paul George is playing better, they end up getting the result they want. And things kind of fall in line. It doesn't feel like James Harden is forcing the issue, at least in my opinion. Mm-hmm. But now it feels like, okay, can we tighten things up defensively? Do we have the lineup combinations we want? How can we handle that? And I think that's part of where we don't necessarily have the answers. We're searching. Mm-hmm. We're searching for it. And so you have a night where Terrence Mann's able to cut and look great and finish. And the bench kind of has structure. Russell Westbrook gets in rhythm. Norm Powell gives you a boost. Daniel Tice is having an absolute blast playing basketball for the Los Angeles Clippers. This man, I've seen him take catch and shoot threes, drive closeouts, flying around to block shots. This man is excited to be playing basketball again. They got to find their base. They have to find their base. And so I think for them, it's just making sure they work through it and keep working on the process so that everyone's important. Because if you have the James Harden pick and roll, if you have what Paul George can bring to the table, if you're getting stops, you're getting something out of transition, I think good things happen. If they're going to play slow, if there's not going to be tempo, if they're not going to cut, if they're not going to defend, if Zubac isn't making plays and pick and roll and the short roll, then it's going to limit. Like, I think that's clear.
I got you. Like, I think monitoring the offense has been interesting because, like, to your point, like, the defense has been good in the stretch. The defense has just been good this year, period. 5th in defensive rating, their 2nd in half-court defense. Like, that's just kind of been the bit for them. And it was really just the offense kind of up and down early. And then the James Harden trade was made. You factor him in, and then the offense was just like in the tank for a little bit. And now it's perked back up. So that's been fun to watch. I think with the starting lineup change in particular, I think obviously you're going from more Russ to more of James Harden-centric offense. Like the pick and roll volume is going to increase with this Clippers group, as it has. And so to your point, it's just balancing out the touches. How can you keep everyone in rhythm? When Terrence Mann is involved, period, whether that's as a ball handler or as a screener, like what kind of looks are you getting out of that? And that's been something that I've kept my eye on. Like I think it's well discussed among Clipper circles at this point that Terrence Mann has not shot well from three this year, or to start off the year, just an awful start since he missed the beginning of the season with the injury. Came back. So it's been a bit of a challenge there. Like I think that's going to perk up. But even when it perks up, like how much defensive attention he's going to get, if he is picking and popping as often as he is, like what is the fluidity of him getting into some of those above the break threes that are going to be available to him? And how does he strike the balance between taking those in rhythm and immediately flowing into, I'll go into a handoff for someone else if you're going to play this far off of me, or I'm going to chew up this space and get downhill and try to force something. Like that's going to be very key for me with his offense. And like the Zubats questions I think are fair. What does he do on short roll opportunities? Because it's been really uneven for him so far. I think he catches it deep enough and can take one dribble and power through someone, get to the rim, good things happen. When he's catching it with a bunch of space, you can kind of see, I have the ball. I am now turning. I see this defender. I'm now going to make this pass. That takes a bit, and then you get into some of the like passing placement stuff if you want to really go through that film and see how the guys are catching stuff like that. He's going to need those reps. And barring the Clippers actually looking to make a move at center and trying to find another starting center, I don't have sources. I don't know. And I would doubt that they go that route. But absent of that, that's going to be one of, if not the most important subplot in the non-star category for this group. How comfortable can we get with Zubats making decisions in space? He doesn't have to be Jokic, but he needs to be like a level or a level and a half above where he is right now, so that we can be the most fluid versions of ourselves. Because I think just with the personnel, James Harden is methodical. Kawhi Leonard is methodical. Like, this is not going to be the 2015-16 Warriors. If that's your expectation of the high end of them being fluid, like, you're just going to be disappointed. They're not going to be that. They do need to be able to, action one, cool. Didn't work, let's go. Action two, maybe didn't work. Let's drive, let's go. That has to continue. And I think limiting whatever buffering you may get from Terrence Mann, or especially Visa Zubats, will help with that. And among the stars, Kawhi's got to take those catch and shoot opportunities in rhythm. James Harden has to take those in rhythm. And I think once you have all that flowing together, this can be a really good offense. On the Kawhi front, though, it's something that I floated out when we had the initial Clippers conversation, where I said something along the lines of, like, quiet as kept, like, this hasn't been peak Kawhi either. Like, he hasn't looked great. He's obviously been very good, but he hasn't looked like superstar Kawhi this year. I was looking at some of the drive numbers this year. Drives are down. Efficiency is way down from last year. Second spectrum also tracks like blow by percentage. That's way down from last year. He's not moving with the same verve. He's not moving with the same juice. And the question that I have right now, as is early in the season, is how much of this is just regular season ramp up for Kawhi, and he's going to be the guy that they need him to be in March, April, May, or June in the optimistic projection? How much of this is just regular season ramp up? How much of this is just an adjustment period to generally just playing more early in the season than he has in the last few years? How much of this is Kawhi just has mileage on his legs and can't get to the levels as consistently as he used to anymore? If it's the third thing, how far is that dip? And thus, what do you need from everyone else to kind of compensate for that? But that is something that I'm starting to think about a little bit more, because like he just does not have the same level of burst. He can still make shots because you ultimately can't contest a lot of what he does. He's still stronger than 98% of the guys that he faces. But it's not as easy as it used to look for him. In addition to the offensive context changing with the Clippers with all these roster moves and lineup changes, stuff like that. But like Kawhi independent, he hasn't looked like the same dude. And I wonder how much of that is going to come back as the season goes on.
Hey, Nekias, how many games did the Clippers played?
Well, it's fewer than 20. I recognize this early. I'm just keeping an eye on it.
No. They played 16 games. How many games has Kawhi Leonard played?
I think he's played, what, 15
16 games.
Play on 16.
He ain't missed one. That's the win.
That's true.
For the Clippers. Kawhi is playing. Kawhi is playing every night. We got that. For me with Kawhi, here's the thing. How much are they like really, truly, like how many deep post-ups is Kawhi getting?
Not as much as years past.
And so, I mean, you have a possession where you question what he does, and then they come out of a timeout, they throw it to him at the elbow, he faces up, hits someone, and shoots right over you. And it's like, oh yeah, he's Kawhi. So I'm not as concerned because I feel like Kawhi is the one thing that you could eventually get going at any point if you're the Clippers, because you know exactly where to get him the ball and how to get it going. I think for me, it's just like, okay, A, we need him to play. B, we need to figure out the rest of this. Is the way I'm interpreting it right now. So my level of concern with Kawhi is not that high because you're going to sit there and be like, what's Kawhi doing? Is he doing this? And then you look in the playoffs and that man's going to have 38 points, missing 2 shots like he did last year. And it's going to be like, oh yeah, Kawhi is very good. And I am tired of that cycle of life.
Hey, that is fair. And this is why my thing is, hey, this is in my head. This doesn't look as easy. I wonder what these factors are versus Kawhi is done. They need to get rid of him in the offseason. Like I don't think anybody should be there. Let's be reasonable about it.
User 887 just typed it.
Okay. Well, fair enough. Well, user 887, you should be more responsible with your platform.
He's 32. He's 32, but he's played every night. True. So I mean, for me, I don't think I'm going to penalize him too much for that. Like, catch and shoot threes feel good. The pull-ups from mid-range don't feel as good as normal. If that normalizes, do we feel better about it? I don't know.
It can, but like again, like this could just be me looking too closely at it, to your point. But like even on some of the pull-ups, like you mentioned, like he can get to, with those post-ups and those face-ups, he can get the shoulder into you and create a little bit of space. It just feels like he's working a little bit harder to generate that little bit of space. He doesn't need much space to begin with because of how well he shoots and the release point and stuff like that. But it just feels like he's working a little bit harder to get those cracks. And like even just quickly looking at Basketball Reference while I have it up on my laptop, 19% of his shots inside of 3 feet in 2021, 14% because he missed a year after that. 14% last year. He's at 10% this year. And so it's just like, I know what he can do. I guess to frame it in like a 2K mind, I know that Pete Kawhi generally is like a 99 overall.
Okay.
My question becomes like, what if this version of Pete Kawhi is like a 95 instead of a 99? How much does that matter? If that makes sense.
Let me counter with a question real quick.
Okay.
Would you rather he attempt to drive and not be able to get by someone and then go to the pull-up, or just go to the pull-up?
I mean, honestly, I would like to see the drive attempts.
Because I mean, if he does the 2 dribbles hard one way, and doesn't go anywhere and shoots a step back, would you rather that, or would you rather him catch at the elbow, face up, I'm not driving, I'm going to shoot? Like, he could be on the redacted plan. If I'm saving these drives, man, I only got so many of them left. So you're going to get these pull-ups. And it looks a lot better when you're shooting 50% on pull-ups like he was last year, as opposed to this year, where I think, well, damn, I can't do math. That's crazy. It's at 41 now from 2. So if that's a big part of the program, it's like making mac and cheese, and now you just try and put mustard in it. I saw too many TikToks. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we got to get TikTok cooks will pay for their crimes. But yeah, but again, like this is why I started with the question, like how much of this is conservation versus are we actually just seeing slippage here? And if it is just slippage, then that's where I start to get a little concerned. But I don't think we're going to have a firmer answer on that until later in the season. But that's why I wanted to ask about the Clippers. And then very quickly on the Hawks, as we get a little bit here in time. Jalen Johnson is just going to be out 4 to 6 weeks with the wrist injury. He has been very good for them. Ferocious driver, shooting over 40% from 3. Volume isn't super high, but it's nice seeing him knock down those shots. playmaking on the short roll. The pick and roll partnership between him and Trae Young has been very fruitful this year. And defensively has been firmly solid. And I think his presence at the rim on the back end with how aggressively Atlanta's defending pick and rolls this year, they blitz more pick and rolls than anyone by a wide margin per second spectrum. I think that's important. And so missing him for a month and a half, I was going to hurt because he's good. I wonder how much it's going to hurt, though. Because it's weird to say like he means a lot for their defense, but also the defense is just 22nd. Or defended at the 22nd best rate with him on the floor, but defends at the 30th best rate with him off the floor. So replacing him with Sadiq Bey, and ultimately I don't think we're going to see much of like Onyeka and Clint together for spacing reasons. I just want to know what the defense is going to look like without Jalen. I think as we talked about a few offense teams in the season previews and stuff, recognize that the personnel isn't great. They just need the defense to be at a certain level. And if the offense is elite, it may not matter. To that point, Atlanta's offense has been insane this year, and this is with Trae shooting poorly for most of it. And so maybe the offense is just good enough, and now you get Sadiq Bey in, who is a more willing and better three-point shooter generally than Jalen Johnson is. Maybe it's just going to be, we're going to be the best offense in the league during this stretch, and like 27 to 28th in defense, and they still rack up wins. It may just be that. But I am wondering what this is going to look like.
I mean, did we not get our answer last week? Where literally 7 days ago, the Atlanta Hawks gave up 157 points to the Indiana Pacers and then followed that up with an improvement on the second night of a back-to-back against the Brooklyn Nets, giving up 145 points. That's a lot of points in 2 games.
Yeah.
So I think I'm with you. They do need to be more solid. I anticipate we see obviously more Sadiq Bey, more Bogdanovich, more DeAndre Hunter, and you hope you can just piece it together. It's a good thing that you miss him. That means he's done well for your team. He's important. I don't think they're gonna butter their bread on the defensive end. I'll put it that way.
They will not. And I just wonder if we reach a point where Atlanta just kind of dials it back. Like, all right, let's just get Clinton to drop. Let's simplify some of this. Because we don't need to scramble as much as we are. Especially missing this 6'10 dude that can fly around on the back end. Let's play more drop. Let's switch a little bit more. We can try to scram out if necessary. Let's try to limit the rotation that we got to make while Jalen's out. I'm curious to see if Atlanta taps that button. They could tap that button. But that's where I was. Did you have any teams that you had questions about?
I did, but we got other people to talk about. So,
all right, fair enough. I guess we'll table those. Any player shoutouts?
Hey, DeAndre Jordan had a 20-point, 10-rebound game in 2023. Thoughts?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Okay. He did that in the same game that Reggie Jackson had 35 points and 13 assists in 2023. Thoughts?
Also pretty good. It's been a pretty solid Reggie year overall.
I wanted to give a quick shout out to Jalen Brunson. Scored 20 plus in 9 straight games, I believe, as we record it. The thing that stands out to me, he's shooting 47.2% from 3 this year, Nekias. And if he's going to be the person who can shake and bake and get to the paint, give you the pull up, but he also is going to shoot threes, that's kind of tough. It's like it's 48.9% on catch and shoot threes. That's fantastic. It's 46% from 3 on pull up threes. That was at 38 last year. That adds a different element. And if he's going to make 45% of his above the break threes, hey, bud, I'm intrigued.
Very quickly before you go, because like that felt like the big boom last year, as many Knicks fans pointed out in our mentions as we talked about Jalen Brunson last year, that he was not this pull-up shooter in Dallas. He's a very good catch and shoot guy. And he still had like the mid-range game and the floaters and stuff. He didn't have the pull-up 3 to that degree. And we saw the big leap in New York last year. And it feels like he's taken another step this year, which is terrifying. Like he's just reaching the point. You just can't play drop against him, I think. With the comfort with him playing, he just leads the dance too well. I don't think you can play drop against Jalen Brunson. You got to ramp it up or you need to switch and then show bodies behind it. And see what kind of playmaking he showcases from there. You can't give him space to chew up, I don't think. He's graduated to that in my mind, at least. You can continue. My bad.
You're good. And I just want to give a quick hat tip to Jeremy Grant. Career high average in points, 23.4. Career high 42.6% from 3. Just saying he's cooking a little bit. Who you got, Nekias?
I want to quickly highlight the play of Tyrese Haliburton, who is averaging 32 and 13 over his last 4 games. He has 30 or more points in 4 of his last 6 games. Do you know how many games this season he's logged with fewer than 10 assists?
2.
3.
Oh.
And one of those games was the last one in which he had 9. To have this level of usage and to not turn the ball over to ridiculous degrees. But to have this usage, to play that fast, and to not turn the ball over a whole heap is insane. It's been masterful playmaking / point guard work for him, in addition to, oh yeah, I can also just get to pull-ups whenever I want to now. And can get to side steps. I'm also getting to the free throw line more than I ever have. He's just becoming a complete offensive player before our eyes. It's been a lot of fun to watch him on that end. Quick shout out to Mikal Bridges. It's technically my first Mikal shout out of the year, which feels extremely late for me in particular. But 25, 6, and 4 over his last 7. In that Atlanta Nets game that you mentioned on the second night of a back-to-back. 45 and 10 against Atlanta. Getting to the line 5 times a night during that 7-game stretch. On the season, you zoom out. 30% of his shots coming at the rim. That was at 20% during the Brooklyn games last year. That was at 25% in the Phoenix stretch before he got traded. I'm kind of here for Mikal Bridges, who can boogie in the mid-range, waiting on those percentages to normalize, but also getting to the rim more. To the overarching, is Mikal a true number 1 question? Like, I don't think he's answered that positively this year. But he is still very good, remains a quality defender, and you're seeing more intention getting downhill. And considering that he hasn't worked with like a true screening partner for most of the year, it's been a lot of like-sized bodies and a lot of switches. It's encouraging to me that he's getting downhill more and having some pretty solid results in regards to that. So I want to give him the quick shout out. Very quick ones from here. Just wanted to note, Chris Paul in his first 6 games, he made 1 3 and was shooting 5%. Over his last 6 games, he's shooting 56% on 4 attempts. So it's nice to see that portion starting to perk back up for him. Mid-range game still hasn't been at normal Chris Paul levels. Playmaking been strong. 3-point shot starting to come around a little bit, which I think is important. So I wanted to quickly give him the hat tip there. Austin Reeves, averaging 15, 5, and 6, and shooting 40% from 3 since moving to the bench. And in that 10-game stretch, the Lakers are 7 and 3. The Austin Reeves, LeBron James 2-man game in either direction in pick and roll has been incredibly fruitful during that stretch. Over 1.3 points per possession on trips featuring a pick and roll, with Reeves screening for LeBron or Bron screening for Austin Reeves, which is insane per second spectrum. So quick hat tip there. And while we're doing hat tips, just quick shout out to Alex Regla, who wrote a piece on Austin Reeves detailing the bench shift, how he's being used, the upward trend with double drag pick and rolls he's running and stuff. Really good piece. I suggested to everyone. Good stuff. Want to give a guy a shout out. Also, Max Christie while we're on the Lakers, because that dude is defending his tail off, or at the very least, he is trying to. He's getting a lot of tough matchups as of late, as he's had to shift to the starting lineup with some of the injuries that the Lakers are dealing with. Just want to commend him a little bit. Had to defend both Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. Got the Kyrie matchup not too long ago. Did not have a lot of fun with Tyrese Maxey last night, so that's kind of tough. But it's really his first real stretch of consistent rotation time, and I'm appreciating the effort defensively for him. Those are the player shoutouts though I have. Do you have free throws?
Yeah.
Okay. I also have free throws. I probably have fewer than you, so I can go first.
Nah, I'll just go first. I'll get mine out the way. Just my little things. More angry after last night, Russell Westbrook or LeBron James?
The answer is yes. I guess probably LeBron. And I say LeBron because LeBron has a very particular way of wording things when he's really fed up. That just kind of incites change. And so once he hits with a lot of things got to change. We about to see a different lineup. We about to get some rumors perking up. December 15th is right around the corner. My eyes are on the Los Angeles Lakers over the next couple of weeks.
Got a question for you. Worst loss. The Lakers by 40 plus to Philly. The Clippers at home to some Nuggets. Or the Pistons at home to the Wizards.
Oh my goodness. I ain't gonna hold you. Maybe this is the upset pick. Detroit can't lose that game the way that they lost that game. I'm sorry. It can't be that. Like, that has to be wow, this is a 4-point game, but I don't feel good about it. These teams are bad. And instead, the Wizards just kind of ran away with it. And as a friend of the program, Kofi pointed out during the watch party, like, the Wizards took it, they emptied their bench against Detroit. Come on, man. It can't be this.
Okay.
It can't be this.
Stronger beef. Piston and Rockets fans or Spurs fans against Kawhi Leonard?
Apparently, Spurs fans against Kawhi Leonard. They got Pop on the mic.
How'd you feel about that?
Odd.
Okay.
That's not something that I've seen on the NBA side before.
Okay.
Also, what did he expect to happen there? You know what, Pop? You're right. Golf claps. Like, no.
That was Nekias Duncan that said that. Just so
No, I'm just saying. Like, I probably agree with the Pop sentiment. Like, I just didn't think the fans were going to be cooperative in that moment, and they weren't.
I got you.
That's all.
I got you. A quicker hey man. Jovic in Miami after those comments came out, or Paul Reed after Nick Nurse found out what he said about Anthony Davis.
Hey, Nick Nurse in 5. Brother, 1, you are coming off the bench. We don't know how many minutes you're even going to have defending Anthony Davis. Your minutes may just be against Jackson Hayes or Christian Wood. 2, and we can tap into respectfully messy land for like 10 seconds. I don't know if flopping allegations are the way to go against an opposing big man. I don't know if you can do that. Not saying that you're 100% wrong, but I just don't know if you can do that.
Okay.
There has to be someone else that says that that's not affiliated with your team to make that joke, and then you can retweet it if you want to. I don't know if I don't know if that specific one is one that you can make.
Okay. All right. I feel it. And then just a quick hat tip. Shout out to the Hollinger. Is this funny? The Clippers not only lost last night, but Reggie Jackson, Landry Shamet, DeAndre Jordan, Nick Batum, Marcus Morris Sr., and Patrick Beverley all scored in double figures.
Oh. Well.
Is it funny?
And also Shay's an MVP talk. So, that is kind of tough. I ain't gonna hold you.
Okay.
That's kind of, yeah.
Oh, last one for you.
Okay.
More angry after this weekend. Marcus Smart or Seth freaking Rollins?
It is Seth freaking Rollins.
Okay.
It's absolutely Seth. He can't stand that, man. I am intrigued. Also, man.
Don't do it. Ask me your free throws.
Okay. Right, fair enough. I'll go very quickly. I don't have many. Steve, who's Miami's best player?
Jimmy Butler.
Okay. Devin Booker or Kevin Durant?
KD.
Okay. Anthony Edwards or Tyrese Haliburton?
Tyrese, playmaking edge.
Okay. Who is the best player that you would say Alperen Şengün has been better than so far this year?
What? Oh, I mean, pass. I'll come back to it.
Pass. All right, fair enough. Tyrese Maxey or Jalen Brunson?
Maxey for me right now.
Okay, all right. Which is a testament to how well he's played this year. Louder when bad, Julius Randle or Paul George?
I don't feel like Paul George is very loud when he's bad. He just misses and then occasionally has turnovers. And it's whatever the graphic stat line is after the game that is very loud, especially since he did the Where's Waldo thing. And so anytime he has a bad game, you just go see Where's Waldo. And like, I don't feel like the on-court thing is loud. I feel like all of that is loud. He gets the post-game volume. Julius, I've loved the passing. I've loved the decision-making. when he does the quick step back three or he yeets a pass out of bounds, it's very loud. So I'm going with Julius. No disrespect.
Oh boy, and that defense. Okay. Last question for you. Is there a single Randall destination that will make sense if the Knicks actually press that button?
Yeah, several.
Like who?
Well, Chicago. I don't know, man.
Well, actually, a quick follow-up. Julius Randle or CM Punk?
Chicago man in 6.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you for listening to or watching this episode of The Dunker Spot. If you haven't already, please subscribe to us. We are on Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, Podbean, wherever you get your podcasts, you can find us. And if you are watching this on JJ Redick's YouTube channel, again, we are on the channel every Tuesday. So set your watches. We're going to be here. And if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed to JJ Redick's channel for some reason, please do that. Aside from us, there's also just a lot of great content on the channel that you will enjoy.
Smash that like button, hit the bell.
There you go.
With
Smash
the bell?
like button, hit with the bell. We online. We online. But anyway, you can follow me on Twitter at Nekias NBA. You can follow Steve on Twitter at SteveJones20. Join the Dunker Spot community on Twitter. We're having fun discussions in there. Join us for our Dunker Spot online watch parties. If you have a League Pass subscription, or if you just want to hang with us while watching hoops, you want to sync up your television or laptop, whatever the case may be, we're hosting watch parties virtually every night, going through the NBA slate, live analysis. We're breaking down plays during timeouts. If you get like some last second shenanigans, game winner or a botch play at the last second, Steve's talking to Studos very quickly after the buzzer. So that's a lot of fun. So if you want live analysis or in general, just good vibes, it is a very inclusive community. Come rock with us. The link should be in your description. If you're watching this, you just click on that. If you're listening, it should be in the podcast description. If it's hyperlinked, click on it, enter your information. It is free, no shenanigans. If for some reason it's not hyperlinked with the app that you're using, just copy and paste the link into your browser. Once again, it is free, no shenanigans. And with that, we will catch y'all on Thursday.
Hey, good job, Nekias. The answer is probably like Pascal Siakam.